Let's rewind Minnie's story all the way back to where it began. Chicago, 1947. Minnie Julia Riperton was the youngest of 8 children born to Thelma and Daniel Riperton. She grew up in the Bronzeville neighborhood on the city's south side, a vibrant hub of African American culture brimming with jazz clubs, community gatherings, and deeply rooted family values. Early on, her parents sensed something special about her. She possessed a natural musical inclination that stood out even in a lively household of 8 children. Family gatherings would often turn into impromptu jam sessions. Minnie's older siblings might be tapping out rhythms on tables or humming tunes, but Minnie could hold a note in a way that made every grown-up pause. It wasn't just that she could sing on key. Her tone was like a delicate piece of crystal, reflecting light in surprising and mesmerizing ways. At the urging of her parents, Minnie began formal musical training in classical and opera. Imagine this young African-American girl drawn to the famous white operatic sopranos of the day, listening intently to their soaring vibratos, believing deep down she could match or exceed that range. And exceed it she did. Minnie developed what came to be known as the whistle register. It's the highest part of the vocal range, well above the notes most sopranos can hit. In classical music, this range is sometimes achieved by coloratura sopranos, but Minnie's whistle register was extraordinary even by those lofty standards, bright and clean, with a near unearthly resonance. Alongside her budding interest in opera, Minnie found herself increasingly pulled toward popular music, particularly the soul, R&B, and pop tunes that were blossoming in the 1960s. Chicago was a major recording hub, particularly for the emerging Chicago soul sound. Minnie had already begun merging her operatic training with the style and groove of contemporary soul. Before she hit 16, she joined a girl group called the Gems. You can picture them, a lineup of bright-eyed teenagers stepping nervously into a small recording booth, excited and maybe a bit anxious. The Gems never became a household name, but they did manage to record a few singles and gain a local following. For Minnie, it was the first taste of the music industry, and more than anything else, it convinced her that she belonged in this world of microphones, mixing boards, and smoky clubs. Chicago's music scene around that time was renowned for supporting many innovative acts. Minnie soon found her way into a more experimental group, Rotary Connection. This band, formed by Marshall Chess of Chess Records, tried to blend psychedelic rock with soul, adding a dash of orchestral flair. It was a bold attempt to fuse multiple genres at a moment when cross-pollination in popular music was at an all-time high. Minnie's presence in Rotary Connection helped shape their sound dramatically. Her extraordinary vocal range and crystal-clear tones added a layer of enchanting texture to the group's arrangements. Although Rotary Connection never soared to massive commercial success, they gained a cult following and remain a beloved curiosity among fans of 1960s and 1970s experimental soul. More importantly, it was with Rotary Connection that Minnie met someone who would help change her life forever, Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder was already a force in the music industry, a child prodigy turned visionary who was churning out groundbreaking soul albums almost effortlessly. Minnie served as a backing vocalist on some of his recordings, and their creative chemistry was immediate. He recognized in her a kindred musical spirit, someone who saw melodies not as static lines but as living, evolving expressions of emotion. Stevie was among the first to encourage Minnie to pursue a solo career, convinced that her incredible range and unique vocal color could stand on its own. And so began a true mentor-protege relationship. Stevie took Minnie under his wing, guiding her through sessions, coaching her in the subtleties of phrasing, and eventually co-producing her breakout album. He often marveled at her ability to jump from a warm mid-register to a dazzling whistle note in the blink of an eye. Some in the studio jokingly referred to it as her superpower, but Stevie Wonder saw it as a musical gift that needed the right context to truly shine. In 1974, Minnie Riperton's second solo album, Perfect Angel, was released with Stevie Wonder's support, although his name was partially hidden in the credits as El Toro Negro for contractual reasons. Little did they know at the time that one track on that album would become a cultural phenomenon, Lovin You. If you think you've never heard this track, there's a good chance you'd recognize its opening bars instantly. It has a soft, lullaby-like charm that stands out even among the lush, melodic soul of the era. Minnie wrote Lovin You as a lullaby for her daughter, Maya Rudolph, who was just a little girl at the time, probably more interested in playing with toys than listening to her mother's recordings. The song's final notes feature Minnie leaping into her whistle register, a note so high and pristine it feels almost like the gentle peal of a bell. When it was recorded, Stevie Wonder famously insisted that bird sounds be added to complete the airy, pastoral vibe. The track was short, simple, and built around Minnie's intimate vocals with minimal instrumentation. Yet upon its release, it skyrocketed to the top of the Billboard charts. For a while, everyone wanted to know, who is this Minnie Riperton? One overlooked detail from this era is that Minnie was still hustling behind the scenes, collaborating with other artists, helping with backing vocals, and continuing to refine her own musical style. She recorded additional albums that showcased her versatility beyond the gentle lullaby style. Tracks like Reasons, Inside My Love, and Memory Lane are every bit as compelling, revealing a more sensual, introspective side. She sang about relationships, heartbreak, joy, pain, universal themes that resonated with the soul of the 70s. She never seemed the type to chase controversy or tabloid attention, preferring to let her artistry speak for itself. But in 1976, at just 28 or 29 years old, Minnie was diagnosed with breast cancer. The disease was discovered at an advanced stage. Doctors gave her a dire prognosis. Survival beyond a year was unlikely. Imagine facing that as a young woman in the prime of your life and career, with young children relying on you. Minnie had to make an impossible choice. Some might have retreated from public life, focusing on medical treatment and family matters exclusively. But Minnie decided otherwise. She underwent a mastectomy and started chemotherapy, but she refused to let her diagnosis silence her voice. Despite the pain and grueling fatigue from treatment, Minnie went on touring, writing, and performing. It was not out of a stubborn refusal to accept reality, but a radiant faith in life, in love, and in the power of music to heal, if not always the body, then the spirit. Her decision to remain active at such a difficult time was more than just personal determination. Minnie became one of the first high-profile African-American women to speak openly about breast cancer, then still a taboo topic even in broader American culture. She appeared on television shows, in interviews, and at public events wearing specialized bras designed to hide her surgery scars. By placing her personal struggle at the forefront, Minnie offered a beacon of hope to many who were afraid or ashamed to discuss this disease. Her courage, combined with that irresistibly optimistic aura she carried, reflected an important shift in public attitudes. If Minnie Riperton could face cancer head-on, maybe others could too. Yet while all this was happening, she continued to create music. Consider for a moment how that might have felt. Each day she managed the side effects of chemotherapy, the exhaustion, and the emotional toll of a grim prognosis. And still, she stood on stage, a bright dress catching the stage lights, microphone in hand, singing with the same clarity that first made the world stop. Audiences reported being deeply moved, sometimes to tears, by her performances during these years. There is something undeniably profound about watching a person whose life is threatened so intimately, yet who chooses to pour every ounce of strength into expressions of joy, longing, and faith. Minnie's latter-day performances were triumphant acts of resilience, a living statement that disease might ravage the body, but it couldn't extinguish the flame of her artistry or her devotion to her loved ones. Minnie's children, Maya and Mark, were quite young at the time. Maya Rudolph, who later became a celebrated comedian and actress on Saturday Night Live, was just a toddler when Lovin You was recorded. The track itself was a lullaby for her, and years later Maya admitted the emotional weight of hearing that song. She grew up mostly without her mother. Minnie passed away when Maya was only 6. The intense sweetness of Minnie's voice in Lovin You took on an almost haunting quality for Maya, reminding her of what she had lost too soon. For many of us, it's easy to forget the real human bonds behind a beloved pop hit. But Minnie's story reminds us that iconic whistle note was never just about showing off a vocal range. It was an expression of maternal tenderness, one that soared to the heavens as if to say, "My love for you has no limit." Despite Minnie's determination to continue working, her health deteriorated. She gave a poignant final television appearance on The Mike Douglas Show, where she wore a bright smile and spoke calmly, somehow giving the impression that she was at peace even if her body was failing her. People recall her last performances as heartbreakingly beautiful, her voice still shining like a diamond, even as she struggled with physical hardships. Toward the end, she and her family made the decision to spend as much time together in private as possible. On July 12, 1979, Minnie Riperton died at her home in Los Angeles. She was 31 years old, an age when many artists are just coming into their prime. In contrast to the lavish farewells offered to some celebrities, Minnie's passing was relatively quiet. There were no massive media spectacles. Perhaps the public, fixated on disco's final hurrah and the changing music landscape, had moved on. Maybe those in the industry recognized that Minnie never sought the spotlight for its own sake. She had always been more about connecting with an audience's heart, less about commanding attention through hype. A handful of close friends, family members, and colleagues gathered to say goodbye. No big press coverage, no grand tributes, just a grieving circle of loved ones, remembering a woman who left an irreplaceable mark, even if the world hadn't fully caught on to the magnitude of that mark yet. One question often asked is why Minnie Riperton hasn't been remembered as prominently as some of her peers. Part of it is a matter of timing. Her greatest burst of fame overlapped with changing tastes in the music scene. Disco was peaking in the late 1970s, overshadowing many soul and R&B singers who didn't adapt to its flashy style. Minnie also shied away from sensational headlines or controversies. She was too real, too straightforward about her life, unwilling to manufacture drama to keep the tabloid engines running. She was a luminous star, but one that glowed quietly, and in the media climate of that era, an unassuming demeanor sometimes led to marginalization. Moreover, her death at 31 meant she never had the chance to mount a comeback or to gain the legend status that can accrue over decades of performance. So, the memory of Minnie Riperton remained a kind of cult treasure among dedicated music aficionados. That said, her influence can be felt in the generations of vocalists who followed. Mariah Carey, for instance, has cited Minnie Riperton as an inspiration for her own whistle register singing. Many contemporary R&B and pop vocalists consider Minnie a pioneer who opened ears to the upper stratosphere of the human voice. The biggest difference is that Minnie's whistle notes often felt seamless and organic, never forced or showy for the sake of spectacle. In that sense, she paved the way for others who wanted to stretch vocal technique without losing the emotional core of a song. Some fans and scholars debate whether Minnie truly had a 5-octave range, or if it extended even further. Such controversies might seem trivial, but they reflect the amazement Minnie generated in people who heard her sing live. Was she the rare singer who could do the impossible, who might have soared beyond even the known boundaries of the human voice? The exact numbers, 5 octaves, 6 octaves, might never be definitively pinned down, but the essential truth is that she was extraordinary. Stevie Wonder once jokingly referred to Minnie as the lady with the infinite voice. While obviously an exaggeration, that statement captures the sense of endless possibility her voice conveyed. Even beyond her vocal feats, Minnie was beloved by those who knew her personally. Accounts from friends and family describe a warm, caring woman who valued authenticity. She loved to cook, loved to laugh, and adored spending quiet evenings with her children. This sense of groundedness sets her apart from many larger-than-life musical legends. Minnie certainly had star power, yet she lived her life in a way that felt real, close to home, emphasizing family and personal connections over the often fickle business of fame. One lesser-known anecdote is that during her later tours, Minnie made time for cancer awareness events and quietly offered words of support to fans going through their own health struggles. In private or at smaller gatherings, she was known to slip into conversation with women who confided they were battling breast cancer. Instead of a superficial pep talk, Minnie spoke openly about her own fears, triumphs, and heartbreaks. She believed that genuine empathy could only come from an honest sharing of vulnerabilities. It is stories like these, uncelebrated in the mainstream press, that show just how deeply Minnie's compassion ran. It also underscores the tragedy of losing her so soon, as she had so much to offer the world beyond her extraordinary vocal cords. At the time of her passing, Minnie had released several studio albums that each contained their own treasures. Adventures in Paradise, 1975, featured sultry tracks like Inside My Love, which showcased the more intimate, steamy dimension of her artistry. Stay in Love, 1977, was dedicated to the concept of romance and domestic happiness. Her final album, released during her lifetime, Minnie, 1979, was co-produced by her husband, Richard Rudolph. It had an earnest, almost testimonial quality to it, as if Minnie was aware that time was short and she had to convey her final messages. Each of these albums carries seeds of Minnie's versatility. She was not just the singer of one famous lullaby, but an artist capable of groove-laden R&B, dreamy soul, and heartfelt pop ballads. While Minnie personally avoided the kind of controversies that often dogged show business figures, there were moments when critics pushed back or misread her. For instance, Inside My Love was sometimes criticized for being too explicit, a reflection of the era's shifting boundaries around sexuality in music. Minnie dismissed those critiques by pointing out that sensuality has always been an essential component of human experience, and that soul music in particular has historically embraced themes of desire and intimacy. If there was any real debate, it was never about Minnie's vocal prowess. No one contested that, but about whether the music industry had the capacity to nurture her wide-ranging talent beyond a single breakout hit. The historical significance of Minnie Riperton's story extends beyond music, particularly for African American women in entertainment, and for the broader conversation around breast cancer awareness. In the 1970s, discussing health issues, especially something as personal as breast cancer, was often shrouded in shame and privacy. Minnie's openness, performing in specialized clothing post-surgery and speaking about her treatments, was groundbreaking. While the bigger waves of breast cancer advocacy would come a bit later, Minnie's candor planted early seeds, showing that honesty about one's health struggles could bring comfort and communal support rather than stigma. She turned her personal adversity into a public platform for empathy, showing countless fans that they too could face life-altering diagnoses with dignity and hope. From a strictly musical standpoint, Minnie's enduring importance is multifaceted. She expanded what a soul singer could be, merging classical training with contemporary R&B stylings. Her whistle register was a hallmark, of course, but even if we set aside that crowd-pleasing characteristic, her voice in the mid and lower registers was rich and expressive, capable of conjuring heartbreak, romance, or childlike wonder in a single phrase. Moreover, her collaboration with Stevie Wonder left behind a blueprint for how an established male superstar could successfully mentor a female artist with a distinct identity. Stevie didn't overshadow Minnie, he guided her. This mentorship is a testament to Minnie's recognized gifts, and it positioned her at the heart of a groundbreaking era. For those who knew Minnie Riperton only from Lovin You, it might come as a revelation that she possessed so many layers. The maternal lullaby that soared up the charts barely scratches the surface of her artistry, but it stands as a timeless testament to her core essence: love, gentleness, and sincerity. That hush of a tune adorned by those whimsical birds holds something universal. It transcends language barriers, geographical boundaries, and generational gaps. New parents today still play it for their infants, just as Minnie once did for Maya. The lullaby's message remains as profound now as ever, that love can be simple, easy, and breathtakingly beautiful, even if life itself is anything but simple or easy. Now there's another angle to Minnie's legacy that may be less discussed, but is equally significant. In certain corners of the music world, particularly among vocal coaches and performance experts, Minnie Riperton is studied as a case study in technique and emotional delivery. One or two fleeting video clips from her live performances remain online, capturing the laser-like precision of her whistle notes. These glimpses are awe-inspiring for aspiring singers who sometimes spend years trying to master the whistle register. Minnie's ability to transition from her lower register to these sky-high notes without any audible strain or shift in tone set a gold standard. It's especially poignant to watch these clips knowing the physical pain she endured while continuing to perform. In each ring of her highest notes, you can sense a defiance of limitations, be they medical, societal, or personal. But perhaps the most poignant and rarely mentioned detail lies in how Minnie psychologically processed her mortality through music. Friends recounted that she used songwriting as a way to express a range of emotions she rarely spoke about directly: the fear of leaving behind her children, the sorrow of missed tomorrows, and the fierce desire to live fully in each remaining moment. Listening back to her later recordings, you'll find moments that feel almost like confessions, hidden in chord progressions or small vocal inflections. To the casual listener, it might simply be another pretty note. To those aware of her battle, it's a heartbreakingly brave attempt to capture life's fleeting beauty in sound. By reflecting on Minnie Riperton's life, we're reminded of something essential: that a truly extraordinary voice can come and go like a passing angel. She brought immeasurable beauty into the world, only to have her years cut short by a devastating disease. Yet in those abbreviated decades, Minnie left behind proof that courage and optimism can shine through the greatest hardships. Her willingness to sing during chemotherapy, her open discussion of breast cancer, her maternal warmth, and her unstoppable devotion to creating music, all these form a portrait of a woman who exemplified grace under pressure. It's a lesson that still resonates today across cultures and ages. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is carry on, adding as much love and beauty to the world as we can, even when our fate seems sealed. Minnie Riperton's enduring impact also lies in the intangible spiritual dimension of her performances. When she reached her highest notes, it was as if she were inviting listeners to share in a rare moment of transcendence, a break from the mundane into something that flirts with the divine. Despite her leaving so early, she managed to etch an indelible impression in the collective musical consciousness. It's about how music can carry us through our darkest hours, how it can unify hearts and provide solace. Minnie's music did that while she was alive, and it continues to do so now. And that wraps up today's video. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like, leave a comment with your feedback, and subscribe to stay updated on upcoming videos. Appreciate you watching.